something like that. I shouldn't play the piano. In film music, it's not really the same as concert music or songs. It's really utilitarian music that accompanies something else.
You know, all art aspires to music. I've heard that cliche, and I absolutely believe it.
I was responsible for the theme. I've been fired 3 times from the series.
Oh, man, the music was amazing. Music, I think, contribute to making Dallas one of the great shows of its time. The music of Dallas is, I think, an underrated aspect of what made that show a phenomenon. There's the theme, of course, but then there's the more subtle art of dramatic underscore.
You lousy!
The thing about music in a film is that when you see a film without music, you realize how much stuff music actually does to it. If you see a scene without music, and then you put the music under that, it looks as though the scene goes faster.
Oh my God.
It begins with the images, of course, but the composer really joins the team at that point and shades the scenes.
I once did a picture, and we did the score, and I went in to see the director, and I said, "What do you think?" And he looked at me and said, I don't know. It's just changed it."
Sometimes you have no choice but to ask the musician to please save your ass.
In contracting, there's a term, we'll fix it with paint.
We'll do our best. You bet.
In the movie television industry, sometimes we'll fix it with music.
We did a show. We had a wonderful director. The dailies looked great. We just couldn't make it work. And it was a real big disappointment. Nobody did anything wrong. It just didn't come together. Well, I showed it to Jerry and said, you know, this is a little disappointing. I thought this was going to be the best show of the year, but here it is. When he was finished, that was the best episode of that year.
And that's what I wanted to hear.
Gerald Immel is one of the key figures on the television music scene in the 1970s and 80s and 90s.
At age 5, I was supposed to be a concert violinist. I failed miserably at that at an early age. But music stayed with me.
And Immel, from the very beginning, I think, demonstrated, even before Dallas and certainly after, that he has an unerring sense of what is right dramatically.
When I went to school, I thought, well, I'll take something simple like music so that eventually I'll find out what I really want to do, and by the time I get out, I'll have something. But I never found out what it was, so I graduated as a composer.
Bruce Broughton is the single most honored composer in the history of original music for television. He has 10 Emmy Awards.
I was fortunate in getting a job from CBS Television when they had a music department.
Bruce Broughton and Jerry Immel actually worked together at CBS in the 1960s and into the 1970s. They both started at about the same time.
He was the copyist, and I was the music supervisor. And so we used to hang out together. And
Bruce was and is a gifted composer, pianist, performer, and one of my best friends ever. I mean, we were a period at CBS where we really were like brothers.
Immel, as he worked his way up at CBS, he began working with major composers who were writing music for television.
I became close to composers in that way, and eventually they started recommending me to the producers for shows that they didn't have time to do. And that's how it started with Gunsmoke.
When Gunsmoke finished, he became the composer of How the West Was Won, which was really quite a great job.
I got the break with How the West Was Won.
The How the West Was Won theme, which Immel wrote in 1975, is, without question, one of the greatest themes ever written for television. I can remember hearing it for the first time when the show was on the air, and I thought, wow, who is this guy? Where did he come from?
It was just out there, you know, and it had this great interval. It was a really great hook, you know. He wrote the theme, and he asked me if I would orchestrate for him. And at that time, I was still working at CBS, so I said, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to.
I think I was on the dubbing stage, and I got a phone call. It was from my agent, and he said, there's this mini-series that they'd like to talk to you about.
I spoke to Leonard Katzman, who was the Dallas producer, about, I said, do we have a composer yet? And he said, no. I said, I heard this music last night. It was just beautiful, called on this movie, Nowhere to Run. And the composer was Gerald Immel. And Leonard had, you know, his binder where he kept the script and some notes in the back, and he opened up to a page with composers, and there was Jerry's name at the top of the list.
My next conversation with Leonard was I had been hired, and it was very strange because we worked out the main title over the phone. He said, I want you to think big, like giant. And I want you to put it in an urban, contemporary setting.
The best television themes set the stage and get you ready to watch your favorite show.
The purpose of the theme is basically to bring you back from the refrigerator, bring you back from the kitchen, bring you back from the bathroom, whatever, to announce the fact, oh, my show's on.
I went out and bought lots of soundtracks, and I'll try to visualize the show. I tried to visualize what the characters were going to be looking like and things like that. And my creative process tends to take place in all kinds of places, in the shower, in the car, various things. I kind of think that might have been a shower theme.
It was a very different kind of a theme. The tune's very simple. You can do it with 2 chords. The tune's very short. It has no bridge. You just get in, you get out. It's just right to the point. Sort of like the show. You know, it was always just right to the point.
I first heard the Dallas theme song, and Leonard gave me a cassette. I went down to my car and put it in the cassette player and played it, and it was so right. It's amazing to me.
I remember clearly that the day that the ratings came out from the miniseries, I was playing tennis, and Len came to the tennis court with the ratings for the miniseries, and he said, we've got a series. You know, this is going to go.
As the composer of the theme, Immel came back every year to write the first episode score and sort of re-record the main title theme.
Along the way, I got rid of the disco and did something that was more contemporary at whatever time it was.
It always had that bold, brassy signature that I think we associated with the show.
So I would fine-tune the main title, and I would do that opening episode of each new season.
There were several composers over the years on Dallas. John Parker, Lance Rubin, Richard Warren, Bruce Broughton, Angela Morley, all these people brought their own dramatic strengths.
We all write different styles. Our styles are all very different. And so there was no real established style to it. One of the things that I got to like about Dallas was that I realized that all these characters could be played any number of ways. They were actually sort of sitting there full of stuff, you know? I mean, JR was usually the despicable one, and sometimes his lines used to make me laugh because they were just so awful. I mean, he would just say these terrible things.
Well, I have a very special feeling for your sister. I hate her.
The writing just made me laugh. But you realized that underneath that, there was a lot of stuff there. And you could use that.
What I loved about Bruce's work on Dallas was the fact that he was always able to vary the orchestral combination and yet not be particularly obvious about it.
We always worked with about 20 20 to 22, 23 musicians. That was our group. But what those musicians would be, what they consisted of, was entirely up to the composer. And I made a point never to repeat myself in the orchestra. That way, the music couldn't possibly sound one week like it was going to sound the next week.
And so in his music for Dallas, he was able, I think, to heighten the dramatic stakes musically on all of the shows that he did. He was nominated 4 times for Dallas.
Len said, oh, Bruce said, you know, you can't get an Emmy for Dallas. And then I did. And I remember in my thanks, I said, I'd like to thank Len Katzman, who said I could never get this.
He won for an episode in the 6th season called The Ewing Blues, and then one in the 7th season called The Letter. There are, throughout television history, a handful of great relationships between producers and composers. In the case of David Jacobs and Jerry Immel, after this successful collaboration on Dallas, Jacobs called Immel for virtually every show he did after that. Obviously, Knots Landing, the next big collaboration between the two, which has a very different sound. So warmer, softer, that great sort of jazzy saxophone over the theme. Again, one of the memorable themes of TV in the 80s. They went on to do The Western Paradise and several other shows. In 1986, David Jacobs wrote this big 3-hour epic telling of the backstory of South Fork, and it was called Dallas: The Early Years.
And I said, oh, I'm so happy with this thing. It's big, you know. This is really the Magnificent Seven. Went into the scoring session for the Dallas, the early years scoring, and I'm waiting for 40 musicians to come in, 45. 8 guys come in, but it was a great score. It was bluesy without being blues. It was country, but it wasn't country music. It just was perfect.
For Dallas: The Early Years. I know it's a favorite score of David Jacobs, and I suspect it's a favorite of Immel's as well. It's so effective.
It just made for a wonderful opportunity. It was a great film to work with, and one of my favorite scores.
That's the thing about his music that I always thought was special, was that the first time you heard it, you thought you'd always heard it. And it was so integral to the fabric of the show that they became inseparable.
The shows were very well made, and there was something about them that permitted me to constantly push, and never find the walls. You know, I never felt a low ceiling. And I don't think I ever had that feeling before.
Television in the days when I was doing it were the real professionals, more so than feature films. You always had to get a show ready every week, and everybody knew what they had to do, and they were just really good.
I've always felt that music is one of the least talked about and perhaps underappreciated elements of the filmmaking process. The music in Dallas helped that show become the phenomenon it was.
It was always music first, and it takes you into that world. It just takes you in there. There's no Dallas without that music, without that theme.